All right, so everyone just needs to consent. All right, with that, I will introduce our special guest speaker tonight, Marcy Field. Marcy is a brand builder and social media manager. Marcy began her Toastmaster journey with Fluor Communications in the spring of 2018. She is currently serving as District 42's Public Relations Manager. She founded her company, Mountain Lion Leadership, almost 20 years ago. She serves as a select group of clients as their social media manager, helping build social awareness on multiple platforms. Being PRM continues to provide her opportunities to expand her knowledge. A former motorcyclist, awesome, lover of people and, and of life. She believes she's a millennial inside from the fact that she was born in the wrong decade. I can relate to that. Currently, her favorite job title is OMA. Is that correct? All right. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our special guest, District 42 Public Relations Manager, Marcy Field.
Greetings, fellow Toastmasters and PRMs. What a pleasure to be with you this evening, coming in from Southern Alberta, where I heard someone say it was cold, but we've got temperatures where all of our snow is melting and we're enjoying heat. Lots of heat and lots of puddles. The quad is messy. I live on a Century Farm in rural Alberta. My husband's family has been here for 114 years. With our grandsons, we now have had 6 generations live on the original homestead. It's a piece of heritage I'm relatively proud of. But other things that I'm relatively proud of and enjoy is my journey in Toastmasters. I don't know how many of you feel like this, but it's something I wish I had done 30 years ago. Well, at least 20, if not before. My time as the public relations manager, I'm currently serving in my 2nd term, which is all that the Toastmaster guidelines allow you to do is 2 years consecutively. I found as a new Toastmaster when I came in that it was very overwhelming because I didn't know a lot of the Toastmaster traditions and the schedule for the year. However, having completed 1 year, I don't know if you guys are feeling like this as you're coming into the final 4 months, that all of a sudden it's starting to make a whole lot of sense in what you're doing. And you're like, oh, I could do this and I could do that and everything else. Hence part of the reason why I stepped up to be PRM for a 2nd year. And I'm really glad I did. Another reason was that we didn't have our website done. Now, to start my presentation, I'm going to disappear for a couple of minutes and then I'll come back just so that you're aware. I want you to know that I'm not having technical difficulties. This is planned. And as I acquire my information, which does not appear to be here. Oh, that's not a good thing. Okay, so I will go back because my information is not here. You know those technical glitches that you get where you think you've got everything lined up and it's all right and it isn't? Okay. Anyways, while I were doing that, what I'm going to talk to you about is an ad that we ran this last year, and the power of video in what we are doing as advertising. And I'm just going to show you to begin with. I will run for you the video that, okay, I'm sharing my screen, and I'm going to not use that one, but I'm going to use, okay, that's because I'm not in basic and I want to go here. I'm doing two different things with this currently. Here is the ad that I created using Animoto, a tool that I highly, highly recommend. As you can see, it's short, based on the messages that we are providing from headquarters about what is our message to go out. And we're looking to attract new members, especially in this time of changes that are going on. Okay.
Marcy, is there anything we could do to help you with
No,
technical?
no, I'm what the problem is, for some reason, my PowerPoint, which I want to appear screen in screen, is not showing up as I've downloaded it.
Maybe I need to make you a co-host. Maybe that would help.
Oh, wait a sec, I've got it. No, it had nothing to do with that. It was my problem that I had created the problem. There, we have got it. I truly apologize. It's one of those areas where I don't like when we don't have there.
All
Now,
right.
as I said, I am going to disappear for a second. Do you all remember the way we were? How fun it was to be together with others and be in the room and stand up front, have all of our actions moving, and we could be a little bit dramatic, or at times we were trembling in our boots as we got ready. It's more difficult. This is the way we were, and this is the way that we are. Quite different scenarios. Oops. I want to tell you first a bit. Okay, I did this wrong again. There. And the way we were. And now. A little bit about social media. One of the things that I really appreciate is the stats and the statistics that are available now to us via a group. A lot of the stats I'm going to present with you tonight were put together by Hootsuite and We Are Social. They put out a report which was called the Digital 2021 report. It came out the end of January. And it gave an overview of a lot of data with regards to what was happening globally. And I extracted some of the stuff specifically with regards to social media use. Out of the total population, 4.2 billion people are active social media users. That's 53.6 of the world's total population. From January 2020 to January 2021, social media saw a 13.2% increase in the number of users. I think COVID might have had something to do with that. That is a gain of 490 million more people since January 2020. In North America, that represents 74% of the population. And the interesting thing of that is 4.08 billion are accessing it via mobile. Something we need to consider in everything that we are doing. In Canada, there are 32.2 million active users. I'm including these stats because I believe part of your region includes part of Canada. Is that correct, Karen? Okay, that is 84.9% of the Canadian population is active on social media. That's wild to me. There was an 8% growth from January 2020, which totals 2.4 million plus. 30.65 million people are on mobile, which represents 95.2%. 95% of all these people are accessing it via mobile. In the United States, your numbers are significantly larger than ours. You've got significantly higher population. However, engagement there is only 72.3% of your total population. You saw a 4.3% growth with 10 million people coming onto social media since January 2020. Again, if you look at the stats, what's incredible is to see that over 97% of the people are accessing it, once again, via mobile. I think it's something we sometimes forget when we live on our laptops with what we're doing. This annual growth globally represented 13.2% increase. In October, which was the last time I had reviewed any of these stats, they, for the first time, reached over 400 million social media users. Can you imagine if we tapped into just the tiniest 0.007% or whatever of that, how many people we could touch and it would increase with what we are doing? The most used platforms are Facebook, YouTube, WhatsApp, and Facebook Messenger. Guess who owns those guys? The next most popular platform is Instagram, then Wex and WeChat. Down the list then is TikTok, Snapchat, Pinterest, Twitter, and my favorite is Twitter. I love the conversations that I have there. If you guys tell me, what's your favorite platform if you're engaged in social media? You can just shout it out or put it in the chat. Facebook.
Let's say YouTube during this time because of all the recipes that I'm learning.
Yeah.
Pinterest.
Okay, YouTube. Okay, marvelous. You see that we're doing this and it's captured our attention. And the interesting thing, just a little side tip, all the statistics show us that if you're running an ad, you get 35% more engagement when you run with a video, which was the first time I had done that was when we ran that video that I showed you previously. Now, the reason I wanted to do it and my focus in that, I did a couple of very specific things when I set up my Facebook ad. Have any of you run Facebook ads at all? Okay. That picking an audience thing can be rather tricky, can't it? One of the factors that I learned is I had wanted to target specifically Southern Alberta and Southern Saskatchewan because that's what the district, the area, the geographical area that District 42 covers. What happened was I put in the provinces because I thought, well, if I hit Northern Alberta and Northern Saskatchewan, it would benefit District 99 and we'd all be winners. I looked at the ad probably 2 or 3 hours after I'd started running it, and I was getting lots of hits on it, but they were from Ontario, Nova Scotia, which I don't know how familiar you're with the geography, but it'd be like California and New York. It was just not jiving. And I went back and I thought, how can I do this better? When I set up my ad, the thing that I did different for the first time in this ad over previous ads is I went in and I identified all of the cities and small towns in rural Alberta and Saskatchewan where we have clubs. I specifically put those in to my target audience when I was building it up. And my numbers were fantastic when I came back, and my ad was going specifically where it was. The other thing that I did when I set up the ad is I excluded anybody who had liked my page, had mentioned any interest in Toastmasters, because I didn't want to preach to the choir. I wanted to be touching the people that didn't know about us. And right now, I believe there is a great opportunity because of the skills that we provide through the Pathways program that are directly applicable to people's jobs, careers, work life, personal life. It pours over into other ways. But in our current economy here in Canada and where I reside in Alberta and Saskatchewan, we have the highest unemployment rate that we have had in decades. I think I might have experienced once a few decades ago. I'm not going to say how long, but I know the numbers. And so I believe that there is the opportunity to provide and let people know for a very small cost that they can invest in themselves and acquire those transferable skills that they're going to need in our new work world and life. The ad we ran was specifically on Facebook and Instagram. As I mentioned, it was there. We reached, in a 3-week period of time, 31,000, just over 31,000 people. Amazingly, we had 23,443, almost 500 people engage with our video, but more surprisingly, we had 22,816 people play our video. Like, that's huge numbers in my world. Best part of it, when I set up the ad, my purpose was to drive them to our website. We had 610 people click on the link. And if any of you look at your ROI, that means that it cost me 74 cents for each person that clicked on the link and went to our website. The amazing thing that we found out about this, I'd been told that women were a primary audience and LinkedIn was a great way to do, place for us to be advertising. And it is great, but like so many of you, I know that the numbers are on Facebook, which one of my previous charts showed you, that we are there, that Facebook has got the audience and we can touch people. Now, the other wonderful thing when you're picking out that target audience, you can choose the education level. We've got all the ways to match that up at Toastmasters International when they show us the graphs of who Toastmasters are, our education, the professions that we're in. All of that's available on Toastmasters International, and we're able to draw that down and use it when we're drawing those ads up for where we go. Now, I told you that we created a brand new website. That was my project when I came on as PRM. My first thing I thought, you had a project when you took it on? Did you have something that you saw and you thought, I'd really like to do that? Well, I really wanted to make our website more appealing. Still not exactly where I wanted, still not accomplishing all that I wanted to do, but I'm much happier with it. It's interactive and we're getting more traffic. But in here, you'll see the numbers that blue represents our traffic in the month of January. We had 1,308 users. We had, out of that, 1,085 of them were new users. We had 2,498 sessions on the website. I'm feeling pretty good about the work we did when I know that 2,500, there's at least 2,500 times that people are coming there, and there were 7,008 page views. And the wonderful thing was we had 411 weekly users. I all obtained this from Google Analytics, which I asked our webmaster to make sure was integrated into the new website and was directed to me so that I could measure that. Now, unfortunately, when we ran the ad, all I could do was measure the increased activity. And now in February, when we didn't run the ad, you can see that it decreased. We went from 1,300 users to 890 users, a drop of over 400. The new users went from 1,085 to only 622. Our sessions were less than half of what they were in January, which was at 2,500. Now we were down to 1,174. Our page views went from 7,000 down to 5,000, and our weekly active users dropped from 411 down to 250. I'm crushed that we do not have more money, and because I've shared these numbers with our team, our executive team, they want to run more ads, but we're struggling, like, where does the money come from? This is part of our whole year this year. We started off running a radio campaign in September because now's the time. Let people know about mastering the skill and what Toastmasters has to offer. We believe it's a great opportunity to reach our non-traditional audiences in new ways. So what I've discovered out of all of this is that our potential is what happens when we make conscious choice to go up to the next level. How are we going to do that? We've been told so often to be on Facebook, to use these different platforms. And as PRMs, we're often asked to do it without any financial assistance. There's very little funds available to us. And sometimes we don't get that marketing combination working with our club growth director. I love the fact that I'm a member of a team that's working together in promoting this, and we're making these decisions as we move forward. It's very exciting to me to be able to go forward in that area and see what is happening. I love going to the next level. I love that my team is making me go to the next level. Now, a very common question that I receive is, how many of these people did we convert? The radio ads, we have no way of really knowing how many people converted, and our radio ads told them to go to toastmasters.org to find a club and see if they could find something here. whereas our Facebook and Instagram ads specifically directed them back to the District 42 website. We are now, I'm hoping, fingers crossed, in the process of developing a chatbot and a messenger that'll work with AI, that when someone visits our website, I can capture their name. We're going to offer them a lead magnet. 7 great tips for being successful in a job interview, perhaps. But once they provide us that, we'll get that, and then we're going to have some information to follow up. All of this is going to be a cost to us of approximately $280 for the year to capture all this information. Well worth running in connection with everything else that we are doing. So now about you, where you're at. What are you doing to take yourself and each other up to the next level? I know that when I'm in my PRM calls, we're sharing all the little bits and having little pieces go back and forth that we can use in different districts. I think that regionally, even, I believe that the clubs, the membership, because grassroots Toastmaster is amazing in my world. And I believe that as we collaborate and work together at a grassroots level, we have the opportunity to create a branded universal message and make the most of our advertising dollars at the same time. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope you found that helpful. And now, any questions?
What app are you using, Marcy, to put yourself on your screen?
Zoom.
Oh, the Zoom lets you, okay, got it.
So where you find it is if you are sharing your screen, you go to Zoom and you go, so I created the PowerPoint. It's a PowerPoint presentation. And then under Zoom in advanced settings, it allows you to choose this as a background.
Awesome, thank you. Also, the $280 that you spent, how long? That was only for 1 month, and that was the targeted audience?
No, the 280 is for developing our AI chatbot that we will be using on our website, and it also is going to integrate with Facebook and Facebook Messenger for us, that we'll be able to have those conversations and collect information and work with people.
Awesome, thank you. That's amazing.
What we spent was 540 Canadian, so probably around $400 American.
Okay.
And that's for 1 month. And I would
1 month, okay.
Well, we were just over 3 weeks, and I would vary that campaign now. I would mix it up, because as I looked at the numbers, and it's incredible the amount of data that is available to us to mine out of that, and to decide what we're going to do to be able to make it better. And that's where I believe we need to go. Too often we've been told, well, just do it, you're doing it, and this. But when we do it in an educated way, using the science and the math that's there, we can prove that it is effective. And I also believe, I'm a very strong believer in collaboration. One of my favorite things about Toastmasters is obtaining feedback. That's 50% of the benefit, I believe Dr. Smedley said.
Marcy, this has been a fantastic presentation. And each time I talk to you, I learn more. When you did your public relations communication plan, can you talk a little bit about that as you were planning for the year?
You really don't want to hear that from me.
Oh, no.
I'm one of the rebels in the crowd, second year round. I do not like the format that Toastmasters presents to us. Toastmasters headquarters is aware of my opinion. As I worked professionally in the marketing and public relations format, I believe we have certain times, but the amount of detail that they request of us, I believe, is unrealistic. And in my opinion, creating reports and reporting to them, but I want to spend time doing the work and making a difference for my district, and spending hours filling out that form doesn't do it for me. Karen, that's just from my heart. I have done a rough just paragraph thing saying this is the year, my objective. I plan to do social media and I plan to do this, but I don't break it down into all of the areas that they request of us.
Okay. Yeah, and so in terms of with your public relations plan, what type of suggestions would you give in terms of, like you talked about looking at the analytics? Can you go into a little more specifics about planning to use social media for your?
Karen, Marcy, a small favor, Marcy, can you stop the screen sharing? I can't get them into the screen.
Okay, I will.
I'm a fan of a spotlight. There we go. Okay, spotlight. There you are, side by side. Thank you.
Oh,
go ahead, Karen.
Thank you, Francesco, for asking. I appreciate that. Now I will take this and I'll create a quick PDF and I'll send it to Karen. I didn't prepare it ahead of time because I was missing the one piece of the chart that I wanted to show the difference in the dropping in numbers between January and February. But I can provide you a PDF so that you will see some of the numbers that you can refer to them in the future. What I would say, one of the things we did this year that was great, and I would highly recommend. So I've got a few things I'd highly recommend. The first thing is look at your year with everything. If you can work together with the entire district, we've marketed all of our training and our contests is marketed at a district level now, instead of all the individual themes coming up. And what we did is our training sessions, our first session was set sail. We were setting sail on the cruise crew. It was brand new. And we did this with our area directors. And we also did it with our leadership development. Well, from setting sail, we hit the ground running and we shifted gears. And then that led on to the next thing that we did is after we shifted gears and we hit the ground running, because they were 4 months into it when we did our the next set of training. And what happened is just phenomenal sessions for our AD and DD training, and then finishing off our leadership, our club leadership training. And we don't do everything. We don't focus on it anymore as just the club officers. We've switched it over to leadership training, and we invite any members. They don't have to be, it's not focused on the club leaders, although there's breakout sessions so that we meet the requirements for that. But because it's leadership, we're getting a lot more people. We had over 1,100 people, I think, showed up for the training the second training session that we just finished, which far exceeds it's greater than the number of if we would have had all of our club officers trained, which would have been around 890 or something like that. But having the larger number, we get people that are interested in leadership another time. We've got people coming and sitting in, and also wanting to prepare to perhaps come into district leadership. That's a huge shift that we've had within that. But then, so we set sail because the leader controls how they set the sail. You don't let the wind decide where it's going to take you. You set your sail, you trim the sails, and you set it in the direction that you're going to go. We have that ability. When we hit the ground running, we could go up and we could gear up. Well, once we were on the ground, the next thing that was in front of us was all those mountains that we needed to overcome. And so then we leveled up. Each time we leveled up, and now we're getting ready to summit which is our conference as we come to the end of our year. And we're having a success summit in May for our annual conference. I look at that opportunity to tie everything together. Our marketing just built on it, one thing after another after another. And it didn't happen only within with just the district, but then all of our clubs were on board with it, and I could see them developing it in different areas to be able to take forward. And one of the things that as I work with the VPPRs, I tried to show up in this last training session and be in attendance at every VPPR session so that they had an opportunity to meet me. And one of the other things I've done this year to develop is we've just started a PR mastermind group. And that's the opportunity where they can come share their challenges, and maybe we'll provide a short little 15-minute tutorial on something that they may not be aware of. Because oftentimes people stepping into this role don't come with a marketing or a PR background, and it's just something that they're learning to do. I find one of the things that we miss a lot of times when we're in this new format is we don't have those conversations. You remember hanging out in the foyer, or perhaps getting out to your car in the parking lot and standing in the parking lot here in cold weather sometimes and just visiting for another hour outside of the meeting. We don't have that. The Zoom meeting's over and click, we're zoomed out of there. And I found that the VPPR, the mastermind group, some people were not expecting that because we're so used to being talked to all the time that we weren't used to sharing what are our challenges. What's the greatest thing that you have to do over? Those are some things that I've done because I want to leave the next year. I want to provide my successor with people that are equipped and engaged. And I want people to know how much fun social media is, because the one thing I want to tell you is we're about communication. For me, communication is a conversation. It's two ways. Karen and I did a lot of that when we got together. You know, it was back and forth. But what is it like when you're on social media? How would you feel if you invited me to your house or you were sharing something about yourself and I'm just going, not much of a conversation. When we get to the place that we can start engaging with everyone, it's very good. Another key factor, because I come in as a marketer, it isn't about sharing all the great things Toastmasters is. It's finding out what is the pain point that those non-Toastmasters have, or what's the pain point even that our Toastmasters have that we can do. Are you listening? Wait. Sometimes I find we're a little bit tone deaf in always, we think we're selling. Big thing. We're not selling. We're here to meet a need and to build relationships. I came into Toastmasters to become a better speaker. And I was reading last night, okay, Helen Blanchard. She was the first woman who became a Toastmaster and the first president for Toastmasters. And I may butcher this quote, but it might be, I might get it right. She said, if you got everything out of Toastmasters that you got out of Toastmasters, you'll never get out of Toastmasters. I believe we can continuously learn. I love the learning I'm doing. I learned how to make those videos in December. That app, Animoto, ANIMOTO.com, is so easy and you can look so professional when we do it. And I think that's one of the opportunities. I have learned a lot of other things. I've learned about the importance of blogging. One other shift that I did this year that I hadn't done last year, I was I was yelling at everybody, come to this, come to this, come to that. But what I discovered is this year, numbers tell, but stories sell. Our members and our clubs have great stories. If you visit our blog, I'm capturing those stories, and I have people coming in and providing me all kinds of other insights about what's going on. I love the fact that I don't have to generate. I have to populate it and put it through the SEO and check everything out. But I've got our club stories and our member stories. We're putting those successes onto our Facebook and onto our LinkedIn and onto our Twitter. I've got other stats of how we've increased. We've more than tripled our YouTube channel. However, I've got another thing that I'm looking at with everybody now. I'm going, we've got some great content there from some of our keynote speakers, from some of our contests that maybe people want to go to. But when I look at some of the stuff, it was amazing when we were in that moment. And a few people might want to go back. But if I've got content up there and only 5 to 10 people are looking at it, is that what I want people to be looking at? Is that the impression that I want them to have of Toastmasters? I think we're amazing, and there's truly some stellar opportunities there. Like I said, you get 35% higher engagement when you're using video. However, if you don't grab them in the first 30 seconds to 2 minutes, they're out of there. They've dropped off. Where are we going to do this? And I think it helps all of us to match with the Toastmasters values about excellence. What are we going to share with excellence? And I believe we have that opportunity to do that together.
Thank you,
Those
Marcy.
are a few things.
There's a lot of activity going on in the chat, sharing of information. You're really inspiring people to share some things that work for them. So yeah, thank you so much. And could you also talk a little bit like how can clubs capitalize on using social media effectively?
I think it's the same as providing a personal invitation in what you're doing. One of the things that we've done, and I've looked at some of our clubs, and I take the opportunity to visit our clubs that are struggling and some of our clubs that are really thriving in this environment. We've got a few of our clubs that are truly international now. I hope some of you do too, where there's people coming in from the States, from Mexico, from Germany, and they're joining the clubs here. We've got one club down south that they used to be about a 50-kilometer, 36 miles range from where the club used to be where their membership came from. Now they find for every member they gain locally, they're also gaining an international member, because in this current environment, we can invite people from anywhere to be with us. And I believe that's really important. But it starts with us sharing our stories. Now, one of the projects that I'm currently involved in as part of my path to DTM is to charter a new club. And we're looking at chartering an advanced club and the group of people that we're wanting to work with are people involved in district leadership at a global level. We want to expand our global network beyond what we have just in our area. And we want to go internationally, one, because it's so cool to have an international network right now. And we can learn so much from each other. When I look at what's thriving and really working in Asia, compared to what's happening here, in some ways, I go, they're really advanced. There are some clubs that are doing phenomenal PR marketing in Africa. And I follow them constantly to find out their ideas and what they're putting forth to be able to do that. And I think when we share, I learned from others, and I had a great opportunity probably about 15, 20 years ago. Because of my background in the arts and in communication, I was always told about plagiarism and you don't do this and you don't do that. But this one group that I was working with and I became an official trainer with, one of the other trainers was an engineer, and he said they share everything and they improve on best practices. It blew my mind. I never will forget where we were when he said that. And it just took all of that away from me. I want to improve on best practices. What's the best we can do and become better when we share things? And why create the wheel? I think our brand is marvelous. The new brand manual that Alana brought out makes it so simple and clear for us to stay there. And all of a sudden we go from being a club that thinks we're over here just our 9, 10 people that are struggling, or 20 people. All of a sudden, when we're all branded and looking the same, we're a member of this huge organization, global organization. It's like, let me see. When I was in Sweden, I recognized what McDonald's was. I hope that when I travel to Sweden, I'll find a Toastmasters club that will be exactly the same experience. I was so impressed when I recently went to a club in South Africa. And their meeting was in the evening, very different than my club's meeting. And they had more time, but the intimacy and the friendship in that club was phenomenal. And they were so passionate about it. One of their new members had just had surgery. He logged into the Zoom from his hospital room. That's how keen he was to be a member of it. These stories are and the story he shared in his table topics message was just heart-wrenching. He had us all in tears. And the question was, when COVID was over, where would you go on a trip and why? And him and his wife had gotten married during COVID, and because of COVID, they hadn't been able to take a honeymoon. And then he'd gone through this surgery. I remember his story. I remember what he told me. And I think that learning from each other and sharing our stories, what I do is I take a post and I repost it. I post it into my club from the region or from another club. I take a post that may happen in my club if they're saying something about me, or if this had been a larger meeting. Last week, I spoke in Oregon, and I was a member, one of the speakers that night, and I talked a little bit about Animoto, and they did a wonderful post up for me on LinkedIn and on Facebook. I shared both of those, had great engagement from both of that. And out of that, I had 5 people from my district showed up at that meeting. But the message got out and it builds an awareness amongst my friends. And what I find is my friends are saying, I've been thinking about Toastmasters for a while. Can I come to one of your meetings with you? It's just having that conversation. When we find a product, a food, a restaurant, something we really like, we share it. At least I do. Yeah, that's it. So that's one of the things I think they can do, Karen, is just realize that you're having a conversation, not just.
Mm-hmm. Yes. That's awesome. That's awesome. Marcy, this has been fantastic. So much information, and you have really inspired people. Lots of conversation going on in the chat box, sharing of ideas that have worked, some best practices. I'm grateful that you had the time to come and share what you've learned over the years, so we can capitalize off what you have learned and make our districts and our clubs much better in terms of using social media. It's not just like you said, just an emoji, but we need to engage. We need to engage with people. And that's what I'm hearing from you. It's more than just a simple, just putting it out there, but you need to actually engage. Stories tell the story. Stories tell the story. I'm just so thrilled with all the information and the analytics behind the scene and the ROI. That was really good information.
Thank you. One other really good tip that I noticed so many clubs are not doing, and I think that a lot of the VPPRs don't know, is, have you heard when you're going to buy a house, it's all about location, location, location? Okay, one of the things is we're overpopulating our post, putting way too much information into the post. Give yourself some breathing room and some space, but make sure you take that little part where they ask you to type up beside it. Don't just put your post in, fill in the data on the side, and that's where you can put your copy that's going to touch people. Because when you do that, and oh, guess what? Your search engines cannot pick up what's in your picture. If you don't put that alt text in, they don't know, and you're not going to put all the alt text here, but you can put it over here on the side when you put your post up. Make sure you're populating that. Make sure you use some of the consistent hashtags that will get you recognized out there and that will unite people with you. That's such an important clue, and I'm amazed at how many people don't do it. And please don't use emoticons or animals. I did last year. I used ladybugs when it came to our conference, but I didn't know that I couldn't. The brand manual tells us now, use engaged people. Make it so that we're relatable. I mean, I love my mountain lions, but seeing Karen's smiling face, Sandra nodding her head, Francisco putting up his thumb, all of those things mean far more to me than just the other. And no matter how you feel, you can do it. We placed our people's faces on the mountains when we were leveling up, and we're creating new things. And the consistency, whenever you do, keep it consistent across everything. And you'll notice that your engagement, it's slow, but if you're consistent, posting at least once a day if you can, perhaps more, whatever's relevant, create a schedule. I've created a schedule that I will pass on to my successor now for what can go on every day. And then they can add the other things in, or they can change it. But it works. I love, wait a sec. I don't know, did you hear that? I really do love what I'm doing in this. It's going to be hard to move on to something else, I think.
It definitely shows, Marcy. And is there a way we can get in contact with you if we have more questions or want to get some ideas?
You can, the easiest thing probably for you is PRM at d42tm.org. You can also do mfield at d42tm.org. And please connect with me on LinkedIn. I would love to hear from you on LinkedIn. Make a connection with me. If you want to leave a comment or say anything about me there, I appreciate it. I'd love to do more of this. I'd love to bring more of us together as PRMs. And I want to hear what you guys are doing.
Excellent. Well, Marcy, thank you so much. I could listen to you for a couple more hours, but I know we've gotten to the top of the hour, and I just want to once again thank you for your time, your energy and excitement for Toastmasters. And that's what I love about Toastmasters. We all love to help each other, and you certainly have exemplified that. There's ways that I know people are probably thinking of more ideas. So in the chat box, Francisco has put contact information for Marcy. Again, she's also out on LinkedIn. Please reach out to her. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. It was a great turnout. Lots of good information going on in the chat. And I'll have to share that information with you, Marcy, because there's a lot of great ideas in the chat.
I save my chats every time.
Okay, awesome.
I believe it automatically downloads for me afterwards. How did you like the video within the video? How did that work?
Oh, that was great.
Loved it, Marcy. Loved it.
It's I.
Animoto.
And I really like that we're seeing our international directors showing up at these meetings now. I think I quickly, when I looked at the grid, or if there are people like we have, ours shows up in Region 4. And that's a huge bonus, I think, if our directors come in and engage with us as PRMs. And I don't know how you guys know, but our regional team tells us that they love the PRMs the most. They have the most friends with us because we're cool, right?
Oh, Francisco, we got our hearts out, right? And Steve would too. So we got to do double for Steve because he had to drop off, looks like.
That's right. That's right.
I need to know when to stop the recording. I need 2 seconds. Do we
Yeah, I
stop
think you
now?
go, you,
Yeah.
I think you can stop now. Yeah.
Okay, in 3,